neglected. I'm hearing a noise and I easily get disturbed by a noise. What we're going to be talking about is very important. And I so wish that it's not just a talk. The talk doesn't end here. That everything we try to talk about is implemented in our ministry. And I so wish also that this kind of ministry grows in our churches. There's a lot of noise there at the back. We're basically going to be talking about youth ministry for people with special educational needs. You can say disability. Well, disability, a term, disability, we'll talk about it and what its focus is about. But we'd also want to emphasize that the people that we will be serving in this particular ministry are those with special needs. It means that they don't fall in the mainstream. And I want to believe almost 100% that everyone who's here is the mainstream, falls on the mainstream category. And you must ask yourself, where are these people that we're going to be talking about? Where are they? Are they among us today as leaders? No. Some of them are children, some of them are adolescents, some of them are adults. But where are they? Where are they? Did we leave them home? Most of us, we left them behind. Why are they not here? Why are they not included? So we want to focus on their special needs and how we can enhance them and incorporate them in our ministry. Okay, by the way, I've been introduced. I'm currently at Parklands Church. Those who know me before, I was at Vuselela. Those who know me may know me from Harare, but I'm permanently at Parklands Church now. Okay, as the introduction has been done, I was in the Adventurer ministry years ago. I see a lot of faces that I was working with, and so I am so happy about that. Before we start, I would like you to ponder on these very important questions. As we talk today, please just reflect on these questions. Number one, how do you feel when you look at a person, I would say with a disability or with a special need? What do you feel inside? How do you react when you meet that person who is not like you, who seems to be out of the norm range? What happens inside of you, and what is your reaction? Whether it's verbal or non-verbal, your gestures, what goes on in your mind, and how do you show it? How do you respond to the person? Do you actually think that there is a connection between you, God, and how you relate to a person with a special need or with a disability? I want to say there is a connection, but do you think there is a connection? Do you think that people with special educational needs or with disabilities are well integrated into our church? Do we think they are well integrated into our church activities and our ministries? Do you think that our church programs accommodate them? Now, if you're sitting here as an adventurer or Pathfinder director, I want you to think about your adventurers or your pathfinders in your church. And then you ask yourself these questions. If you are a youth leader, think about the youth that you are serving in your church and attempt to answer these questions for yourself. And then ask God to work with your conscience. All right? And ask God to work with your conscience after you've reflected on all these questions. We just talk about a disability, what it is, the types of disabilities. We're not going to talk about living with a disability. I'm not going to touch on that for this constituency. And lastly, we're going to talk about the implications of the disability in our youth ministries. All right. The disability is nothing else but just a term that refers to impairment, activity limitation, and participation restrictions. So if everyone else can do this, and it's supposed to be done in this way, and I'm not able to do it, I'm limited in doing that, then I fall in that category. All right. It also denotes a negative aspects of the interaction. I want us to note this, between a person's health condition or conditions and that individual's contextual factors, which is environmental and personal factors. I may have a limitation by birth that is limiting me from participating in various activities that a normal or average population is expected to participate in. But in my own space, with the correct and appropriate resources, I don't feel disabled. Do you hear me? But when I start to interact with you, two things, because you have not provided me with the appropriate tools to work with, you are disabling me further. With the way you react and respond to me, you are disabling me further. If I am deaf and you are determined to use your vocals to communicate with me, you are disabling me. Because the method that you are using to interact with me is not appropriate for me. But if I go to my class and I meet people who are also having a hearing impairment, we communicate, we use our sign language, would I feel disabled? So the environment plays a crucial role in enhancing the disability and the limitation that is there already. That is why I pose those questions, say, how do you react when you meet a person who's not like you, who is not able to put the left and the right in the right coordination, but uses another method to do that? So the resources can limit us. We know there are so many contributing factors to the resources that limit us. Some of us don't know the knowledge. I guess that is why we are presented with this kind of topics, so that we gain that kind of knowledge of who these people are and how do they look like, how do they do things, so that we gain knowledge on how to interact with them. So knowledge that is limited to this can also make us impair them even further. We know the socioeconomic conditions in our churches, some of our churches, that do not allow provision for people with limitations and restrictions. Our churches, some of them, they don't have ramps, they don't have necessary resources to help the deaf, to help the blind, and so on. So many of these people are left behind. But I do want to say, forget about your church that doesn't have this and that. You are a leader who is here. And from now on, it needs to be your determination to advocate for the provision for the people who have got these limitations. Are we still together? So we're not here just to listen. We're not here just to listen, but we're here to go back to our churches and say, this and that and that and that needs to be put in place because we've got so and so and so who doesn't fit in my class, and I want that child or that young person to fit in. We've got about 15% of the global population with disabilities, and about a fifth are estimated to have significant disabilities. As we know already, people who have got these limitations, they cannot attain the highest achievement like we do. Some of them cannot be graduates. Some of them won't even be able to follow the curriculum to be master guides. All right? And for that factor, it puts them on a lower socioeconomic range. Most of them, they are getting disability grants. Some of them, they're getting care dependency grants, and so on. So the level of achievement is not going to be on par with all of us. They already have got that limitation. That is why we need to ensure that we provide for them. In South Africa, about 7.5% of our 58 million people have got limitations. And as we can see, we've got higher rates amongst females than males. All right? Let's just get an overview of the types of disabilities. All right? Let's get an overview. We're talking about people with physical disabilities and mental disabilities. All right. We're looking there at things like mobility, auditory impairment, visual impairment, speech and language impairment. I'm sure this rings a bell. Maybe we can start thinking about the people that you know who cannot articulate themselves very well. Mental disabilities, we get them in children and adolescents as well as in adults. Let's just go through them one by one. I'm not going to go into details for the sake of time, but I'm going to just give you a gist of what you would expect from a person who's got mobility limitation. I hope the picture there, it says everything. Have we seen people like that? Have we seen people like that? Do we have them in our churches? Yes. Yet we don't have a single one of them here. We're talking about those people who are not able to move from one location to another. Others are limited in performing particular tasks. They can move, like you and me, they can run, but when it comes to particular tasks that require certain coordination and occupational skills, they are very limited. We do have them in our churches, but are they in our clubs? They can move, they can run around, but they're not able to do the knots, all the knots that are required for honors. And then, do we say that they can't be in our clubs because they can't do the square knot? Let's move on. Auditory. I'm talking about those who've got hearing impairment. They are unable to receive the sound. Some of them can be just partially deaf. I hear parts of the sound, but not all of it. And some of them, you would see them wearing hearing aids. And some, there's completely no sound. And it means that you have to use another form of communication. We don't have a single person who is having a hearing impairment in this house. Because if we had, I'm sure there would be somebody here standing and doing sign language. By the way, I hope the Adventurer Ministry is still keeping on with the sign language that we implemented years ago in trying to make provision for our kids without even asking who is having a hearing impairment or not in the house. But we started with trying at least to make sure that there's someone who does sign language in front of the kids every time one is presenting. But hopefully, in our future meetings, we will have that provision. But the fact that we don't have, it just gives an impression that there is no one who's having a hearing impairment in the house. If there is, maybe that person is at least being assisted by a hearing aid. And so it's not so obvious. But the severe ones, they're definitely not here. But they're missing out. Do you ever think about that? We are learning a lot here. What are they learning? Nothing. All right. Visual impairment. Some, they are completely blind. Some can see short-sighted or long-sighted. The severity of the impairment, it differs from one person to the other. Okay? But we still don't have them here. Otherwise, I'm sure we would have made some adjustments to make sure that the person, everybody can see or can hear if they cannot see, of which we're coming to how we can actually assist those who've got impairments. Speech and language. Speech and language impairment, which can be receptive or expressive. Okay, when it is receptive, it means that I'm not able to receive and understand and process very well the communication that is directed to me. The words that you're saying, I'm not able, my mind is not able to process them and formulate them to such a point that I can understand and reciprocate the interaction. Some of them, they can receive, but they cannot articulate. That is expressive. I'm not able to articulate my communication to you such that you understand what I'm saying. Okay. Some can speak in one sentence, two sentences, or the formulation of the content and the sentences. I'm not able to do that. So I am limited. Are we still together? Are we still together? Sure. As we can see, there are various causes of any form of impairment here that I've spoken about. You are either born with it. Some, you are born with an impairment. It's genetic. Or something happened while you were a fetus in the uterus. Something happened, whatever, that affected your brain, and then a child is born with that impairment. But some, it's acquired. You were fine, like me and you. All of a sudden, you get an accident or something happens that affects your brain, and everything gets messed up. So no one can ever say is safe or immune from a disability. No one. The fact that I'm fine, I'm talking today, I don't know what may happen to me tomorrow. Which is why it's so important to attempt by all means to empathize with the people with limitations. You don't know when you might find yourself in that position that you need people to relate to you in a certain manner. Okay? You don't know. If it's not you, it may be your family member. It may be your child. It may be your sister. It may be your brother. It may be your husband. No one is immune to having a disability. So this is something that we need to embrace so that we are prepared to when it happens to us. But you know what? Don't wait until it happens to you. Then you start to be compassionate. Do you understand? We don't need to experience it to know how it is. We need to start developing that compassion and empathy now and start to work with it so that if it ever happens, then we are already prepared. I will move on. A mental disability can be developmental, and it can be found in adults as well. Tends to be a permanent condition, okay, which mainly impacts on one's ability to learn, to process, to exhibit, and also to share information. Also, difficulty with developing adaptive skills. A person cannot groom themselves as much as the normal population or age appropriate is expected. Things like dressing and feeding themselves and handling a job, doing the minor chores that would expect maybe a 12-year-old to be able to do, and that person cannot do. Lack of understanding of the concept of time, concept of money, you know, all those things that require cognitive skills. A person with a mental impairment, mental disability, lacks those skills. So when you say today it's Tuesday and I say it's Wednesday and you laugh at me, I know it's a day, it's daylight. Okay, that's what is important and it's enough for me. But you don't have to laugh at me when I say it's Wednesday, because I've got no concept of time. I may be aware of the surroundings and everything and be able to do everything, but those things become umngqusho in my mind. They are just very raw for me. So their comprehension is very limited. And how they infer information is also very limited. Their understanding, you would think that a person is oppositional or is ignoring you, but that person did not fully understand what you were saying, did not fully understand the instruction. It also can occur at any point in time again, all right? You may have been born normal, but again, something happens to you, and it messes with your brain, and then you lose it. So your functioning declines. It takes another turn. Again, no one can say, I'll never have a mental disability. No one. Tomorrow something may happen, an illness may occur that will cause you to have that permanent mental disability. When we look at children, we're talking about things like attention deficit disorder. We've got children who have got attention hyperactivity disorder, or my ADHD. Some have got Asperger's syndrome, Down syndrome. Are we familiar with these terms? Yes. Think about those children who are in special schools. We're talking about all of them. They fall in that category. Actually, we've got some, because of the limitations in our society of resources, we still have got some children who are in the mild to moderate range, who are still struggling in the mainstream schools. Those are the kids that we normally say they are slow learners. One is 20 years old but is still in high school. Why do you think that person is still in high school? All right? And struggling there. So some of them, the fact that they are still in mainstream school, it does not necessarily mean that they fall in that category, but because there are not enough schools to move them, so they struggle there. When we talk about adults, you think about diseases like Alzheimer's, anxiety disorders, bipolar, depression, memory loss, obsessive-compulsive disorders, and so on. The most severe ones, we will find them in psychiatric institutions, hey? The less severe who are functioning, they take their treatment, they are out there in the community, treated as outpatients. Okay? As we are sitting here, we don't know who's got what. Okay? Because the medication that is given to us, it helps us at least to function as better people. But then once you start taking it, you definitely relapse. We do have those children, those adults, those young people in our churches. But they don't raise up their hands and say, I've got this disability. It is for us as leaders to open our eyes, open our ears, open our minds, and look out for them. Because they are sitting in the corners because of the stigma that is attached to the disabilities. No one wants to come and say, my child has got this. Not all parents are like me who would come. If I join a Thembaletu church, I'm definitely, first thing I will do, I will go to Thembaletu Pathfinder Director. I don't wait for her to come to me. I'll go to Thembaletu Pathfinder Director and say, my child is this type of a child. Please, let's work together. Accommodate my child. But not all parents are like that. So they need us. They need us to think for them. They need us to draw them in, because it means that their children are always left behind. And let me say this with passion. God will hold us accountable for neglecting this ministry. God will hold us accountable for neglecting this important population in our church. What are the implications for our youth ministries? Disability is not a new concept, not at all. It was in the Bible. So when we talk about these impairments, don't think it's something new. It was there. In Jesus' time, disabilities were there. Jesus interacted with the disabled or with people with special needs. And he modeled for us how we should interact with them, how we should relate to them. He described his earthly ministry in saying that the Spirit of the Lord has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted. What do you think about there? Which disability do you think about? Bipolar depression. To proclaim liberty to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind. To set at liberty those who are oppressed. This is a population, guys, that is so oppressed in so many ways. This is the population we're talking about is the vulnerable population. When you're talking about the vulnerable, you think about the elderly, you think about girls, you think about women, you think about the disabled. Because they can't think as you do, they can't run as you do, so they always need protection. They are so vulnerable to abuse. Of all the miracles, we say about 35 recorded in the Bible that were performed by Jesus. And out of those 27, he touched people with special needs. Go back to your Bible and check and see, how did Jesus work with people with special needs? A few of the examples where he healed a boy who was unable to speak, a man who was paralyzed, a man who was deaf. So Jesus never excluded anybody. Jesus never excluded anybody, so why should we? Why should we? Who are we to exclude anybody who's got a disability? I could do so many quotes if you read Ellen G. White when she talks about your connection with that person and with God, and that God has placed them purposefully amongst us to serve him, to show his mercies and his love, to be amazed with his provision. Our mission as the Seventh-day Adventist is to proclaim to all people the everlasting gospel in the context of the three angels' message. It doesn't say to certain people. It doesn't say to certain people, to all people. Now, ask yourself, do you serve all people in your ministry, in your church? Don't think about the church next door to you. In your club, are you serving everybody? If Kayaletu has got 20, you are a Pathfinder director, Kayaletu has got 20 adolescents, and you only have 10 in your club, where is the other 10? Go find them. No one, guys, should be left behind who is in the age group that you are serving. God will bless you if you serve everybody. Everyone, regardless of what impairment or limitation they have, they should be included. Make sure of that, because it is our mission. But I want to emphasize again, let us not just say this is our church, even our church is striving. These are the steps that it's taking to put this into implementation. This is not new. This is not new. But the implementation part of it has been failing for years. I want to say it is up to us to bring it up. It is up to us to bring, as I say, the Adventurer Ministries started with it. They need to rekindle it so that it can be rolled out to other ministries. We need to save everybody. No impairment should hinder any effort to integrate the disabled person into worship. Everybody has a right to worship. Every child, the government says every child has got a right to education, isn't it? No child who's in the school-going age should be found not in school. Everybody has a right to worship. Every child has a right to belong to your club who is in that age group. Shouldn't be excluded. No impairment should exclude that person. I'm saying no impairment, you're going to ask yourself, what do I mean? Some can come, yes, we understand that there are different levels of severities of these impairments. Some children, there are various forms you can use. Some can learn at home. You collaborate with the parent, but make sure that every person is included in your lesson, whether it be virtual, whether it be in any form. No impairment should block anybody from being part of the worship and your youth ministries. We need to adapt our worship and our lessons to the context. You can see the various contexts there, hey? So, do we have any excuse? Our mission, guys, that it doesn't end in that class in church. It's at home, it's in church, it's at school, it goes to the hospitals and the prisons. You will be very much backward if you still think that I just go to church on Sabbath and I taught my class and I've done my work. You haven't. If you're still confined in that classroom and at the end of that class you brace yourself and say, I've done my work. No. If there are still kids who were not in that class, who were entitled to that lesson, and you didn't reach out to them, you haven't. If you are still taking 10 children out of 15 for testing and for investiture, you haven't done your work. You haven't. Where are the 5? Where is even that one child? Because she's admitted in hospital, you couldn't. You should have figured out how you can reach out to that child. So the context is not the classroom. The context is everywhere you can find our people. They are our people. Our worship and our lessons should appeal to various senses. There is no one size fits all. If you can hear, then I should be able to hear. If you can talk, I should be able to talk. All right? Everybody should be able to receive that lesson. It should be adapted to their way of learning. All right. I see what has happened here. My slides have been messed up, and I hope they're not messed up too much. Let's go on. I see. I'm sure the mouse was moving everywhere here, but it's fine. Let's see. We'll go. What is our role? I've put there, you're going to wonder, because we don't have a YCOM vice chair for disabilities, do we? I guess for me, Kaya, ne? Aya. Aya, isn't she for ambassadors? Come again? Oh, great. So I'm behind. Sorry, Aya. Because this will never be implemented until we have a dedicated officer for disabilities. It's not enough to say, in our presentations, we do this, then we think we've done it. It was part of the presentations. No, we need to put it into practice now. I'm very happy that we do have one. What would we be expected to do then as being in that position? We need to conduct a situational analysis of all people who have got special needs. In the Western region, how many people have got disabilities? What types of disabilities do we have in the Western region? So that I know, okay, we've got deaf and what. Then we are able to plan for them. But if we don't know who's who in the zoo, how am I going to plan for lessons? So we firstly need to know who is who in the zoo. And you also in your church, you need to know who is who in the zoo, in your zoo, so that you make provision for that. Of course, in terms of policies and that, I know that our church, especially the children's ministries, they do in their websites, they do have books about disabilities. They've conducted so many lessons on disabilities. So we do have books. Our church has got the material that speaks to disability already. All right, I'll go with it. Safety is important. We're talking about how do we include them now? How do we include them in our ministry? Of course, safety, we've talked about them being vulnerable. Safety does not only speak to physical safety. Don't only think about a person who is on a wheelchair. It's so obvious that everybody would want to protect that person. I must make sure that she goes here and there. But we've got the intellectually disability, okay? Those who have got these disabilities that are not visible to us. That person is vulnerable to abuse. Protect that child because they tend to be bullied. They tend to be abused and taken advantage of. In your class, make sure that you protect them. Safety is the first and foremost. They've been messed up. Here we're talking about inclusion in the curriculum. Okay, I wonder if I can just try and end the slideshow here and see if I'm gonna see, okay, they've just messed up all of them. It's okay, let's move. I know what I actually prepared. Let me go back to slideshow. All right. So we're talking about how do we include them, all right? All right. Let's come to the curriculum. The curriculum. Do we think the curriculum is disability friendly? Is it? Is it? The requirements that you see in the Friends class, do they accommodate that child who's got an intellectual disability? Do they accommodate that 12-year-old who is still functioning on an 8-year-old level? Let's be honest, not at all. Not at all. It means that we have to be creative in adapting that curriculum. Hi, let me ask, is there anyone here, I'll just make an example, is there anyone here who's got any child with intellectual disability in their class? And how do you deal with that in terms of the curriculum? When we do the testing, we expect everybody to know, ne? And to know everything. Hey? And if you don't know all of that, I fail you. We don't think about them. The curriculum needs to be adapted to their needs. There we go. It needs to be adapted to their needs. The world is ahead of us. That is why we've got special schools, ne? They are allowed to learn at their own pace, to graduate at their own pace. Their learning is individualized. But what do we do, Tina? If it's this requirement, all of you, same expectation. Yet ulungi naye are different. We need to adapt the curriculum to such a point that it speaks to Ulungi and her needs. It speaks to her and her needs. They've got different learning styles. This expectation of within 6 months, everybody should know. Yet this one takes 8 months to know that. This one takes a year to know that. We need to individualize and stop putting our children under pressure to achieve and everybody must be on the average. Are we together? Even the testing and the assessment needs to be individualized. It must speak to how I learn. We've got different learning styles: audio, visual, kinesthetic, sensory, reading, and writing. Let's just get an overview of them. The visual learner, for an example, retains information that is presented in graphic form. There you need to use charts, you need to use symbols, diagrams. I learn from what I see. I think of my child who is very much a visual learner. What I see, it sticks in my mind. Imagine now, if you're going to present a lesson by talking and talking and talking, I didn't even show the kids or that adult. Okay, I must stop talking about the kids only, because these people, they grow to be adults. And that I'm a visual learner as a child, I'm not going to change as an adult. Okay, let's refer to people now. Now you're talking and talking and talking. You didn't give me anything to see what you are talking about. And you think I understood. Show me, talk and show me. All right? Because Ulungi will retain what you are saying, but I will retain what I can see. Are we together? For those who have got visual impairments, let's think about them. Even the image, for an example, the font that I'm using there may not appeal to everybody. Okay? So when I am cognizant of the fact that there may be visually impaired people here, I will adjust my font such that everybody can see. Even the sitting arrangement, you don't say to this one, no, you like to sit in front, don't sit here, go sit there. Whilst a person prefers to sit here so that I can see. Do you understand? So it speaks to the environment, how we provide the environment for that one who's got a visual impairment. Auditory person learns by listening to information, sounds, and vocals. Again, I think about my daughter who learns very much with music. Say it repeatedly. It's going to stick in my mind. For some children, that is why we use rhymes, all right? That is why we need to have music in our church, so that those words, they stick in my mind. Hi, Iman. Most of us don't even have Ukresto Ngomeni, Christ in song, ne? But by coming to church and we sing these songs every day, they do what? And you sing, you know all the verses without even looking. You don't even know what number that song is. That's how the auditory learners learn. So let me hear it. I need to hear that music. I need to hear that sound. If you're talking about a cow and you make a sound of a cow, that sound will always remind me. When I hear that sound, I think of a cow. So accommodate me. All right? The audiovisual and kinesthetic learners, let me go back because these slides are messed up. The kinesthetic ones, they like to move around. Don't be disturbed when there are people who want to move around. They want to touch, they want to do things, they want to be hands-on. Don't be disturbed by that, because you don't know that person, if that person is more kinesthetic. So sitting like this and listening the whole time, it's not enough for me. But I need action. I need to dramatize. That is why in our lessons we even have to dramatize these things so that they understand much better. Sensory, they want to touch, okay, they want to feel, they want to smell. Then I will remember better. In adventurous, actually, we emphasize that this is not for adventurers only. I always say, remember, these people, they become adults. In our lessons, we should be, if we are presenting a lesson, that lesson should have a visual component. I should be able to show pictures and videos. Ne? If, let's say, we're doing a story of Abraham, I will talk about the story. Ne? After that, I need to do what? I need to show them a video to accommodate those who are more visual, audiovisual. I need to allocate time to act that story, all right? And include everybody in the lesson so that we act that story. I also need to bring in the material that is speaking to that lesson. They must see the boat. They must see all the elements of the story. Even and touch them. Feel the water. Touch the boat. We go out. We touch the flowers. Everybody has been accommodated in the lesson. By the time we go home, nobody has been left behind. Do we get a picture? All right. Now, when it comes to honors, people with disabilities, they've got a lot that they can achieve. The problem is not individualizing those honors. Don't have an expectation that one. Let me say, you as a director, you had set out to achieve 10 honors this year, and that's your only focus. We are doing these honors this year. That's my focus. No. When it comes to honors, individualize them. My child cannot achieve the honors you have set for this year. All right? Yet there is a lot that she can do at home that speaks to her needs. So allow parents and these people to choose which honors are fitting to their abilities. Are we together? So if I'm a parent, I should be able to come to you and bring evidence to say, my child can make the bed. Okay. My child can cook. You send those, it's about collaboration between you and the person and the parent. To say, okay, I've sent you pictures to say this, or you want to come home and see my child doing this and that. It's out of your, so don't determine the honors that others should receive. Honors are individualized and they speak to each one's ability. If you are mainstream, you will achieve everything. But allow them, because these honors there are many of them. They are not limited to what we stipulate. So don't dictate. Don't dictate. Allow the parents to bring those honors to you and those achievements. And it will build self-esteem for our people. We are different. We need to accept that. Okay? We've spoken about allocating time for outdoor activities. When we are doing your outdoor activities, plan it very well. Knowing that I've got so and so and so and so who's got this disability, how am I going to, where is this child going to fit in this lesson? All right, let me just make an example. Let's say you are raising a flag. I always believe that every child can fit, there's something that they can do. I've forgotten what this is, but this one child, what he can do was to at least jump on the pole, hang on to the pole, all right? And just like that, everybody else could do what was complicated and running and tying the knots and doing that, but we wanted to include this child so that she feels part of the team. So you choose the activity, part of the activity that is fitting to her. Even if it's just moving from here to here, I was part of the team. Even if the first or the last in the row, each one must have a role to play in tying those knots, in doing each and every one of our activities. It's just that we don't want to take time sometimes to find out where each one is going to fit. All right? Now, when we are planning our activities, we've got swimming galas, we've got, what? Olympiads, we've got what else? Drill downs and everything. They can do those things to their level. They can to their level. If we take out the competition, they can. But we're putting everybody under pressure to perform to that ability. All right? The least we can do, allocate a slot. All right? Allocate a slot. I'm sure in future in our YCOM, we will see them. We're expecting to see them. A slot needs to be allocated for our people with special needs so that they can exhibit their skills and their abilities. If they are running with wheelchairs, why not we start with them? They have their race, all right? So they should be allowed to do their activities at the beginning of the event, and then we move on to everybody else. Those who are mildly impaired can be incorporated in other activities or with the normal group. But we cannot continue to have events that exclude our people with special needs. In their special schools, they do have races. Am I right? They do all these activities. So why do, when my child comes to church and you think that she can do nothing? Yet at school, my child is doing drumming and this and this and that and that. Yet in church, my child is completely disabled. It is so sad. EYCOM, we need to start thinking, let there be a slot allocated for events that are fitting to them. They can do all of that. And they should achieve as much as others have achieved. They've got the ability. Okay. We cannot continue to exclude them. For testing, we have said that we need to test them individually. Okay. I'm sure some leaders there, like Lungi and others, they know my child. And she, thanks God that they understood her very well. She never felt out when she comes for testing because she was accommodated. She wouldn't be tested with a normal group. Yes, she fits in with the normal group, but she wouldn't be put under pressure that you must answer. You must say this or you must say that. If she doesn't feel like talking, it's okay. She will talk at her own time. Okay, she will use her own language to talk at her own time. So we found a way to, so those kids are different. Don't have a one-size-fits-all for testing. That one child, the parent might want to sit in this corner, and she might want to be the one who's asking the question. The parent knows how she taught her child at home. She knows how a child is going to respond. All right? So you as the director, just sit there and it should be an exhibition other than an examination. Do you understand? It should be an exhibition other than an examination. Let the child show you what they know. You know what is most important? We need to know all these things. The most important is Jesus. Jesus. If our people can grasp the relationship, the importance of the relationship with God, that's enough to take them to heaven. If they can know God, that is enough. I may not know a square knot or whatever. I may not be able to recite all those verses, but at least I know that story, what it means, and what it means to my relationship with God. That's enough for them. And then allow me to give you what else I can show you, I can do. And that's enough. Give me the honor. Pass me to another class. if you need be. Don't let me sit with the busy bees for years because I've got a limitation. Because the others are going to laugh at me. I'm 12 years, I'm supposed to be at Pathfinders, and you say I didn't achieve. You want to keep me in adventurers. What is that? What is that? So allow them to progress at their own pace with the information that is enough for them, not for you. Okay? I again want to emphasize that as you allow them to progress at their own pace, give them what is due to them. Again, please, we don't see them in leadership. We don't see them in leadership. Yes, number one, we need to accept that our people, depending on the type of a disability, some of them can achieve and be master guides, okay? Because not all of them are intellectually impaired. One may just have a physical disability and yet is functioning intellectually, so I can do the curriculum and everything. I can be a master guide. I can play a role here. I may not be able to go and do the drill down there, but I can play a role. But why are they not here? There are so many of them who are in wheelchairs who know what we are doing here. The fact that I can't walk does not mean that I can't be a master guide. They have something to contribute. They've got something to contribute. Let them feel. When they get to the age, for an example, of being a counselor, almost 16, 17, and so on, you expected at least you've moved from Pathfinders. You can be a counselor, you can be a what? Allow them. Allow them to be leaders. As you allow them to be leaders, don't expect them to lead as you do. Allocate them to that which they can do. Do you understand? Even if it's just assisting, if I'm good at doing this one thing, in this leadership, it's what I'm going to contribute. Because I'm also going to feel like a person. I cannot continue as a 19, 20-year-old to be a pathfinder because I've got a limitation. Please, as they reach that age, most of them, they are not even, we don't see them. Yet we see our other kids being counselors and directors and everybody. We need to see them. They've got something to contribute. Even if it's just standing here and being part of the worship team, I feel part of the group. Let me do something. All right, they may not be a master guide. We know some will not be graduates. We as families have already accepted that. We need you to accept it. We need you to accept it. They can't sit and just observe and applaud other people doing stuff as if they can't. Please. So as I've said, before I open up for questions, as I've said, our parents will not come to us. Some parents will not come to us. Let us go find them. Let us do that situational analysis in your church. Start finding out who's who. The YCOM chair will collaborate with you, all right? And some churches have got disability coordinators to understand who is who do you have in your church. And then we put this together, and then we start planning going forward. Hopefully, in our next event, we start to see a change, and we see them amongst us. Questions? I only have 5 minutes. Good question. It's an afterthought. Yeah, good question. I think, yeah.
Okay, I was saying, oh, my name is Tony. Tony is my name. I was saying there is a place where I used to stay before. So the parents opened their door for me, and I used to have prayer sessions with their child. They've got a disabled child, paralyzed, like completely. Can't move, can't talk, can't do anything. So there is a situation where I don't have anything that I can do to better, or so I only did prayers with them but with time you end up seeing that there is nothing I can do to assist. So I don't know, in such situations, the person is paralyzed, perhaps is coming to church, being pushed on a wheelchair. How can we be of help to such situations?
Okay. Thank you so much. The least we can do for a person who's severely impaired, for an example, the parent has brought that one who's paralyzed in church. If it's a child, when all kids are going out for a lesson to another room, that one must go with them. The worst thing is to see that parent sitting here. The classes are going on and everything in other classes, and this child is always here. Okay, remember, no matter how disabled the person is, some senses are still working. Okay, I can hear. Maybe sometimes those sounds that that person is making, or what, is the excitement from the music that I'm hearing. So if I'm sitting here next to my mom, I'm not included in the excitement with the other kids. You are depriving me. But if you allow that parent to take the child with to the class where there's enjoyment and everything, that child is still part of the program. That's the participation. The participation can be passive or semi-passive or active. So that's also an inclusion. When we talk about inclusion, we don't necessarily say only take me to do this, but make me part of the program. Make me part of the enjoyment of everything that you are doing. Okay, because we don't always understand how they communicate, but the sounds and everything they say, I'm with you guys, you know. I hope I answered you. Okay. I think you're going to need to come forward because they won't be able to hear you. Please, my sister.
The mental illness one is a sensitive one because one, I cannot diagnose someone. If the parent doesn't come to me and tell or say anything about the child's condition, I am not educated enough to say, but I am able to see that this child, there is something wrong with this child. How do I then approach the mother? Because some parents are very sensitive when it comes to these issues. You don't want a church member to start making quarrels with Ilantuk and say that wena Amanda, you are diagnosing my child, whereas I haven't seen that. As much as the parent have seen it, but abene issues now, and then it becomes a huge issue in the church.
Thank you so much. Yes, that is not unfamiliar at all. We are at different stages of understanding and acceptance. The fact that I'm a mother of a child who's got a disability would not necessarily mean that I've accepted that. Nor I fully understand what is going on with my child. And remember, it's a challenge to have a person who's got a disability. That on its own, it needs some processing from the people who are at home, from the parents. So that is why we'll find other parents in denial, complete denial. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to talk about it because you're telling me what I see and what I don't want to accept. So it's a very tricky, and And before I answer you, I want to emphasize that let us not blame those parents. Ne? To have a child or a person who has got a disability, you need debriefing yourself. So it's different. You need to go through different phases to get to the point of working with that person. So we don't know at what level or phase that family member is. That is why we cannot judge them. That is why we cannot blame them. Okay, it's a very sensitive topic. However, the least we can do, you are a leader and you can see that something does not add up. Okay, take time to learn. Don't exclude, but take time to learn about this person. Observe, okay, and try to understand where this person fits in. All right? And try to understand where the person fits in and how you can adapt the lesson. So that even if the parent doesn't understand or whatever, but at least when you are in my class or in my group, I'm able to work with you and the group is able to accept you. Do you understand? Maybe that alone, the family member seeing how you relate to that person may soften their hearts and draw them in to work with you. Remember, the first thing, it's always, the first anxiety, it's always, how is my child, how is my person going to be accepted? You know? So the parent is sitting there anxiously. Are they going to exclude? And maybe that parent is sitting there even anxiously hoping that you're not going to pick the problem. And now you do. So act as if, even if you don't go to the parent, work with the person in front of you. That may humble them to come and draw them in. I hope I answered you. Next. Come. It doesn't move. It's short.
Okay, thanks. I just needed to add on and in an attempt to answer the question, yeah? I think the first step is to do the analysis, as the doctor has already told us. In that analysis, you compile what is called maybe like a profile. When you're doing that profile, you get to know where the child attends the school. And immediately, maybe in most cases, you'll pick up that the child is attending a special needs school. And then that's your first point of trying to communicate with the parent as well. And most interventions, you'll find that they are done at the school already, your psychologist and everything. So that makes your life easier as a leader. So I think the first point of call is to do the analysis, compile a profile after recruiting, get to know the child and build a relationship with the parent, get to understand, because it's you, the leader, the parent, and the child. It's a three-legged pot. It can't be just you and the child. And then from there, that's when you'll get to. Then, as the previous speaker has already said, we are all not qualified to assess and diagnose and whatever, but you'll find that most of those have already been done at schools, and it makes your life easier. And that's when you go on and approach the YCOM leader and say that this is what I've gathered, and can we work with the child in this way?
Thank you so much. And just lastly, it's important to build your team. Don't work alone. Don't work alone. Build your team. Now that we are recruiting the less able, okay, and especially abled and the disabled. Now, first thing you're going to ask yourself, acknowledge that you don't have all the skills to work with them. Now, I'm sure in our churches, we've got one or two in each church. If you don't have in your church, you might have in the church next door some of the teachers that are working with these children. You will find health professionals and educators who are familiar and working with these people. Draw them in your team. I know most of them. In the Adventurer Ministry, that's what we did. We drew everybody who is working with a disability. And in that manner, you'll be able to get different skills. Okay, this teacher knows how to, you draw it in. That one works at that place and that place, you draw them in. And provide training for your teachers as well, using these skills that you will be getting from the other people, other church members. So don't work alone. Don't work alone. I think that's all from my side. Thank you so much.
All right, before she leaves, normally we'd introduce somebody with their list of this and this and that. Doctor, please come here. I would like her to tell herself very short and very quickly how she ended up doing what she's doing, what she's done. Thank you.
He's actually asking me to do what I dislike the most. Don't ask me to do a biography or autograph or whatever. I don't do that. But anyway, what did you say I must do?
You really don't like it, eh? Okay. What did you study to do this?
Oh, okay. Basically, I'm a mental health specialist, nurse by profession. Okay. I live, I breathe, I walk, I do everything mental health. Okay. And I'm well experienced in adult and child mental health. If you've got any issues you don't understand pertaining to mental health, whether it's a child or it's an adult, you're welcome to contact me. And then I was blessed with a child with special needs. So whatever I'm talking about, I'm not theorizing. I'm well experienced when it comes to that. My child has got an intellectual disability. But I'm sure some of you, when you look at her, you won't recognize it until you come very close to her, because she's not on the severe range. But she's got a lot of limitations and speech and language, limitations, a lot of that. And it was quite a journey for me, but God prepared us for that and the whole family. She's such a blessing. She has taught me a lot. She has taught me what it means to love and to accept unconditionally. And what the questions I was asking you there, if you think that there is a connection between you, God, and the person with a disability, it's because I know we have learned as my family what that connection means, how my child with special needs connects us to God, and how valuable it is to have a. She brings everything special in the family. She's a treasure in the family. She's got a lot of strengths, which is why I'm emphasizing that we need to not to focus on the disability. Let's focus on the strengths. There's a lot that she can do, even more than you. I'm blessed with 2 kids. One has got special needs and one is mainstream. She's a third year at varsity. Completely different. But there's a lot that my child with special needs can do and excel in that my other one cannot do. So there's a lot of lessons that, so when it comes to disability, I know what it means. I'm walking the journey and I'm living it. Thank you so much.
I want to say thank you, Doctor, for that. By experience, they want your number. I think you call it out.
Okay, let me call it out. It's 079 390 7475. 079 390 7475. And the email address is simple. It's my name and surname, there's no dot. StellaMukitimi@gmail.com. That's my name and surname @gmail.com. I also do have a private practice. If anybody, wants to know, where do I go? My child is this, or my adult is like this. And I will always guide you where you can get services. Right now, yes, I'm the clinical program coordinator in the Kailicha Eastern substructure. So at least I know, the resources out there for adults and for children with this and that from NPOs and so on. So at least if you need guidance, don't sit alone with that parent in your church. There's always somewhere that that person can get help from. Thank you.
All right, you've got the number? All right, now we are going into a final 10 minutes. I'm telling my pastor 10 minutes of talking to us, and then we go home. So what is he going to talk about? Yesterday, today, and tomorrow of the youth ministries. What did I say? Yesterday, today, and tomorrow of the youth ministries. In my church, we had a disability boy. He couldn't read. He couldn't stand in church and speak. Today, he's running 2 companies. He sells music in States Online. He's a web developer. But he's got disabilities. This is true what he's saying. So those kids understand him. But also the mother built a relationship, understood, and focused on that. On that note, Pastor AJ, come speak to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Willow. I would like everyone to stand up quickly. I want everyone to sit down quickly. Quickly, sit down. I want everyone to stand up quickly. Touch the roof. Touch the floor. Touch the roof. Touch the floor. Sit down quickly. Stand up quickly. Say amen. Amen. Touch the floor. Touch the floor. Touch the floor. Touch the roof. Okay, jump up as high as you can. Okay, sit down. Amen. Amen. All right. When you give the mic to a pastor, Brother Will, 10 minutes might turn into 20. The way forward for youth ministry, it's in your hands. Are you hearing what I'm saying? It's in your hands. If you want your church to succeed in adventurers, pathfinders, ambassadors, young adults, it's in your hands. You might be shaking, nodding your head and saying, yes, Pastor, but you have challenges, right? There might be people that are slow to get onto the ministry buckets or ship. Remember, the church is a ship. How long does it take to turn a ship around? A long time. The ship has been standing still for almost 1.5 years, right? 2 years. It's now time that we start to get the ship going. And I'm sure as soon as the ship starts moving, what's going to happen? You've got to keep it going. So to keep it going, you have to do something. We use it in athletics, relay. You guys know what the relay is. What happens? You've got to pass it on. But how do we pass it on? Do I wait for that person to be here? You start moving, right? So that when you get that baton, what happens? You can go because then you already are top speed. Ne? Now here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. My race, in my mind, as a director, is coming to the close. I see the next director in front of me, whoever that might be. What must I do? I must speed up and I must give it over. I'm passing it on. You have started this year. You must start preparing for next year. Are you with me? You've got to start making your lists. Ensure that you have something to give to your next leader. Because if you're not giving anything to the next leader, guess what you have just caused the ministry to do? To stall, which means the ship is going to stop. When you start the first day, you must start preparing for the finish line. Does it make sense? When I started my first day in 2018, at the end of 2018, it was in a master guide investiture. We invested 50 master guides at Langa Church. Sister Lungi, I don't know if they're all busy. I don't think they're all busy. And I have a question. If you're a master guide, irrespective of your age, all right, you have a challenge to never drop the baton. You should always be passing it on. Are you with me? I haven't taken a pin back. Because if I hear that master guides, and I've heard this last 2 weeks, master guides are drinking, they smoking, they partying, wada, I can go through the list. If I hear that, and I know the names, I will go to the pastor and say, church board, these names are not being the best example as master guides. It's now time that we have to remove the pins. You understand what I'm saying? Because that means my spiritual state is not moving with the times. It's not building with Christ. Okay? Christ is our center. We have to move the church forward. Are you ready? It was a solemn occasion. Are you ready to truly take on this baton as a leader for the Lord? Do you want to go home? Do you want to have your kids go home with you? I'm not talking about Khayelitsha home. I'm not talking about Kales River home or Paarl East, Paarl West. I'm not talking about that home. I'm talking about going home. It's now time that we as leaders realize that we have the capacity to move the church in the right direction. You need to train your kids. I have prepared myself to pass on the baton. Okay? And the time is going to come when I have to pass on the baton. Where the Lord takes me next, I don't know. But I can actually just say, thank you, Lord, that you have provided leaders for the churches to move the ministry forward. So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you're going back to work tomorrow. I know it's tiring, but I hope you've been inspired over this last weekend. You might have expected something different, but realize that through the tiredness, nothing that is easy is actually going to be that great. A diamond is formed under a lot of pressure. Realize you're a diamond of the kingdom. And each and every child that you're working with is a diamond of the kingdom. Let's shape it. Let's build it. So we have your certificates. And I'm going to ask Brother Prince and the YCOM to come to the front. And we're going to call your church up together. Okay? Your whole church. Because we don't have a lot of time. We don't want to spend another 3 hours handing out certificates. So we're going to call your church up. If your church comes up, you can come and collect your certificate. But we're going to pray now. As you collect your certificate, you may then head out. Can we do that? Amen? Okay. Let's stand. And let's close our eyes. Remember, prepare yourself to pass it on. That is the call that God asks us to make as disciples. Let's close our eyes. With the songs. Okay. Let's see if they know how to do this, Brother Will. Squat! At ease. Squat! At ease. Squat! Attention! What? Am I too quick, Sister Lungi? All right, we'll be singing the Adventurous song and the Pathfinder song. Can we have some ladies? National anthem, Brother Willow. Okay. Ladies?
Lusa
adventurous song. Pathfinder. Amen. Let's close our eyes and we can pray. Boys uncover. Father God, Lord, thank you that we can be present today, Lord. Thank you that we have this privilege of going through this training over the last 2 days. And as we head into the rest of this year, Father, may we be inspired and may this flame burn in our hearts that Jesus Christ is alive and we have been called to make more disciples. Bless us now as we depart, Lord, and continue to be with us as we go through this week that lies ahead. We pray this in your name alone. Amen. Squad, you're still on attention. Squad at ease. Stand easy. As you were, you may be seated. Thank you. YCOM, please come to the front with the certificates. While they're coming, there's an adventurer curriculum camp in 2 weeks' time. Okay? The cost of the camp is 800 Rand. The expectation of the camp is that the adventurer club directors and master guides who are interested to be at that club, we're just expecting one person from each church. Okay, just one. We're not looking for a lot of people. So if you can get together an offering to send your club director and master guides, if there are, send them to the adventurer camp. Then in 3 weeks' time is a Pathfinder curriculum camp. All right? It's also 800 Rand. This involves accommodation, food, and your material. It will be taking place as Mizpah camping site in Grabouw. All right? If you're interested, let the vice chair know of adventurers and the vice chair of Pathfinders or the office, and we'll send you the Google form link. Yes, it's Google again, and you need data, so save. Okay, we need you guys to come to those camps. All right? So register. Take up those offerings. Are we ready? Who's the first church? Where's the other Wycombe? You guys need to stand up front here, please. Bonteheuwel. Waar's Bonteheuwel? Is there a question, Sister Lungi? No. So the training is there, they will still be tested. We will be sharing after the camp a summary of the camp, all right? It's going to assist a little bit, but it's not going to be as effective as attending the camp, all right? But we really, really would like you to be at the camp because it's going to help a lot. It will actually solve a lot of other problems that we'll face if they attend, okay? Bonte Heerwil. Brother Corsi, is he selling? All right, next church. Circle Church. Brother, yes, okay, Brother Willow will just be handing out like that. Circle Church, you can start coming to the front. Once you have received your certificate, you can make your way out to the outside. Before you leave, can we head to the field for a big photo? Can we do that quickly? And there's a shop open, so if you want to buy stock, you may buy stock at Sister Gloria. All right? Capricorn Church. Capricorn Church. Capricorn Church. The recording, we can stop the recording, Brother Denzel. We can stop the recording. Okay? And I know Uncle Claude also wants to start packing up sound. Okay, districts.
Sometimes on this journey, I get lost in my mistakes. What looks to me like weakness is a canvas for your strength. And my story isn't over, my story's just begun. And failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. Yeah, failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. Lay your burdens down. Ooh, here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. Ooh, you're in the Father's house. Arrival's not the end game, the journey's where you are. You never wanted perfect, you just wanted my heart. And the story isn't over if the story isn't good.